point. And of course the pins get washed. So if you're going to use pins before I actually use them, when I buy them at the store, I will take them and wash them. I usually soak them in a dish soap and then take them out and dry them, which is a pain to dry these, but you just want to get them, make sure they're pretty clean, so that there's nothing on them. All right, now I'm going to go all the way to the end here, back to where I started, and bring this all the way around and add my last couple of pins to hold that in place. And then we're going to let this one dry. And it is almost time to stack our cake. All right, so we're ready to stack our cakes. We've got our bottom tier, our middle tier, and our top tier. Now, when you're stacking cakes, you always have to have support. So you can use these big, thick plastic dowels, or if you want to, you can use pretty heavy-duty straws. A lot of people use what they're called bubble straws. They're the big, wider straws. And you're going to want to just put that in your cake and cut it to the top, and then do a bunch. I mean, if you're using, depending on what you use, if you're using these, you probably only need about 4 to hold 2 tiers like this. If you're going up 7 tiers, put 8. Always over support your cake as opposed to under support your cake. So if you're using these, you have to use less. If you're using these, you want to use more. Okay, so we're going to talk about now lifting the cakes on. Okay, now I'm working with dummy cakes. So these are considerably lighter, and because they're styrofoam, I don't really have to worry about supporting them with the dowel. So you'll notice I did not dowel these cakes. If they were real cakes, I would dowel them. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your dowels in there. Some people add something to actually hold the cakes together. Some people don't. I usually don't. If I'm going to put these tiers on, I'm going to, at a certain point, dowel all the way through all 3 tiers, and that's going to hold them together, which you always should do anyways. But some people add the extra element of putting down a little royal. And so they'll put their dowels in, and then they'll put some royal down, and then put the other cake on top. So I don't need to do that because these are dummy cakes. So I'm not going to worry about that step. And I normally don't do that step either because I want them to be able to cut the top tier, pull the dowel out, and then the other tiers lift off without them having to really struggle with it and tear the fondant that this tier is sitting on. So I don't do that, but if you feel like you want that more security, you can. So the way I would do this is if it were a real cake, I'm going to pretend like it's a real cake even though it's styrofoam. I would hold it from the top. If you ding this area right here, it's not going to be a problem because you're going to cover that. So I would slide my spatula through. I'd hold it here, and it's going to be heavy, and if it's heavy, you might have somebody else help you with another spatula on the other side. Sometimes you can do it yourself if you've got 2 big spatulas, and you can wiggle them around and lift it like this. I prefer to do 1 spatula in the middle, and I can usually do this on a good size cake. If it were a 12 tier like this, I might have issues lifting it myself, and I might get my husband to come in and help me stack. But if it's pretty much an 8 or a 6, I can do this. So I'm going to lift it like this, and I'm going to set it, try to center it as much as you can on the cake. Now, in order to see if it's centered, you want to get low and spin, and then you're going to see if it's centered. So that looks pretty good to me. All right, now we're ready to put our gold tier on top. Now, I would not do anything to this gold tier until it was 100% dry, and that could take a few hours. So once I airbrush it, I want to make sure that it is just solid dry before I even touch it. And even then, because airbrush has gone on so thin and so lightly, you can ding it really easily. So be very, very careful with your airbrush piece because you can definitely ding it easily. And if you do, you cover it with a flower, and we'll talk about that later. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to slide it towards the edge of my counter so I can get it from underneath. So I've got it from underneath, and I've got my piece on top, and I'm going to place it and place it. And if I want to slide it a little bit, I'm going to take a smaller spatula and I can put it down below and kind of push it around a little bit. But there you have it. We have our stacked cake. Now, let's go ahead and add our flowers.